Hey everybody, it's Ed back with another tutorial in Manga Studio. This time I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about frames, drawing panel borders in your comics. That's what frames are used for. They're called frames in Manga Studio, that's why I'm using that word rather than panels, but I think most comic artists would probably say panels. So this is not really that different. I mean, I could do a typical demonstration, but I feel like that's probably most of what you can get on YouTube. So instead, I'm going to try to suggest a few ways you could be more creative with your frames. So the frame tool, if you haven't ever used it before, is down here under the figure subtool. And so you have a couple different options under there. Your rulers are under there, but frame is what we're interested in here. I have a normal 11 by 17 comic page here open, and I can just go in and I can take that tool, and there's a guide that's already built in, and I can draw a big panel. Okay, once I draw the panel, then I can actually go in and I can draw sub panels. So if we wanted to make a very typical old school comic page, we would use one of two options here. We would divide either by the frame folder to make new frame folders, or we would divide by frame border. Now the key difference here is how you like to work. So if you have, let's say, a page where you're going to have 6 different panels, then let's say we'll just divide this equally down the middle, and then we're going to divide it into 2 more lines here to give us 6 panels. If you choose divide frame folder, what will happen is, notice how when we created this, there's a frame folder over here. It says frame 1. Okay, so it contains its own layer and a white background. You can actually, use this tool, come in here, draw a line. You can kind of tilt it however you want. If you hold shift, it'll make it stay at a perfect flat angle, and then you just let go and it'll draw a new folder. So now there's 2 frames. If I click on this one, that's frame 1. If I click on this one, it's frame 2. Okay, so it creates a whole new folder with extra layers in it. If I went in and did the same thing, but I did divide frame border, you'll notice that it creates the border that I want there, but I still only have 1 frame, and it's the whole page. And this is really just a matter of personal preference, how you want to work. One thing I can tell you to be wary about is, let's see if I can zoom in a bit on this border. Let's take a color other than black. Okay, I'm on my layer. Remember, this is dividing by frame border. You'll notice that I can draw between and it won't mess up my panel border on the same layer. Okay. I could see how some people would like to do it this way, have one giant layer for the whole page. I don't think I would like to do it that way. I'm not a multi-panel comic person usually anyway. I usually make cartoons that are 1 panel. But when I do make multiple panels, I always use the divide into frame folder option, because then I have separate layers in each frame, and it makes the file bigger, and maybe makes it a little bit harder to work with and remember where your layers are. But if you wanted to do some sort of lighting in one frame and not in another, then you can't really do that if they're all in the same layer and you use the divide frame border. And when you actually do this, there are a couple other options here where you can change the shape. This is very similar to dialogue balloons, and then you can change the horizontal and vertical space, the spacing between the 2 spots, okay? The 2 panel borders on each side. So I didn't have much of a border there, but you could make it bigger and have more white space. Now, the frame acts sort of like a mask, as far as I can understand it. And that is the typical, like I said, if we did that, that would be the typical comic way of drawing, border, 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 panel, 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 panel. Modern comics, you don't really see them adhering to this as much. I don't know if this is differences in publishing and what they accept, or if it's a stylistic difference, but you might see a comic, for instance, where you have a panel here, and now my panel is going to be orange because I changed the color to orange, but who cares? Let's leave it that color. I'll change the next one to black so you can see the difference. And then I can draw another one right here. and you'd have those two panels, and then you might have white space up here, and then you might have another panel here that doesn't even really have borders. It goes right to the edge of the page. And you can see this, just like look up Batman page, and the first couple image results you'll see a lot of different styles of creating panels. So get a little bit more creative when you make your panels. And this, I should mention, this tool, just the rectangular frame, is sort of freehanding stuff here in a rectangular fashion. You can do the same thing here, where you can tell it if you want it to have a folder, or if you want it to not create a new folder. You can take away drawing a frame border if you don't want a frame border on your panels. That's also kind of a thing that people do now. And then you can also you can do things like change the anti-aliasing, which makes it kind of a harder, softer edge on your border. And then you can come down here, and if you really want to get crazy, you can throw in some other things: pen, pencil, airbrush, spray, depending on what kind of effect you want on the panel. So you don't have to stick with just simple lines on your panels. There's a couple other cool things you can do. I'm going to show you an example of something I'm working on for my own comic cartoon on the internet, can'torwon't.com. So I like puns, and I like to make fun of pop culture and things like that. So and I'm a little bit older, so I was a child, pretty young, but still a child, when New Kids on the Block came around, and my sister was super into New Kids on the Block, and so I had this idea of creating a parody of this picture of Donnie Wahlberg from New Kids on the Block in Manga Studio. And so you can see here, there's some interesting things going on. You've got a purple frame. You saw me draw an orange frame just a second ago. And then you've got this orange kind of weird background back here. So, and the frame is tilted. And you can do that in Manga Studio. So let's just grab the color of this frame using the eyedropper tool. Get kind of a purpley color, I guess it is. As I mentioned before, color is not my strong suit. And you can come in here, you can grab your rectangular frame. I want it to be a regular kind of full rectangle, so I'll do that. And I'm going to have to take the brush size up quite a bit here. I'm going to take it up to like 200 something. Let's go. That's, you can fine tune it. Let's just say like 213. And then you can just come in here, and you notice how it kind of snaps to this grid. That's what I want it to do. Okay, so now I've created a frame that has a new layer and everything that's is similar to what was in the Donnie picture. Okay, you can kind of see it now that I clicked off of it. And then what you can do is you can actually click on that frame. You can hold the control button, and you can come in here and you can manipulate it. So I'm going to turn Donnie on here for a second, just so that I can see what he looks like, or what his frame looks like, so I can match it pretty closely. Grab the frame, hold control. This guy will rotate it, this top one. So get the relative, you can actually just eyeball it based on the picture. That actually looks really good. It's pretty similar. I think that the frame goes off the page a bit, so I'm going to actually just expand it this way a bit. And then I'm going to expand it down here, whoops, this way a little bit. And that'll move both the flat part and the vertical part. And if you want to move one of those individually, you can click on these buttons. So pretty cool, right? You can even make things that are askew. And then also you can add in other things like this texture in the background. I'll probably do a thing on textures, but if I wanted to, I could do is I have a layer that's underneath all of this. See how this layer is below my frame folder? And that's a nice thing about a frame folder too. You can close it up like that. I can drag this camouflage guy onto that background, get a similar kind of look to it. I can come in here and can change the color a little bit. Let's see. I had an orange earlier. I should have kept it. Actually, let's just grab this orange here and make it easier. The eyedropper tool can fill that guy. Boom. Look at that. Not too bad. And then you can mess with the threshold too on this, so you can kind of adjust how thick or thin you want it to be. So that color is actually a little bit, this looks lighter to me than this, so I might actually just bring it down just a tad to like there. Throw it in there, and that looks pretty good. Pretty good. So hide Donnie. Let's hide him. Let's hide this frame. Let's hide Donnie. Let's hide this texture. One other thing that I forgot to tell you, which is pretty cool and really make you think outside of the box, is if you go back to the frames, who says they have to be a rectangle? You can grab a frame border pen and you can draw any frame that you like. You know, so if you have like a ghost comic, you can make it look like a ghost. And you can come in and grab the pen and start doing your work. So that creates a separate layer. And if I now go in and, you know, take my color and start coloring, boom, separates it. Pretty awesome, huh? So, you know, I think just you know, use your own discretion in terms of what you want to do, and see what you can do. And if you like my video, you can check other similar videos out on my YouTube channel. And if you have any ideas for future videos, please let me know. You can hit me up on Twitter at Edomaniac, EDOMANIAC. That's Edomaniac on Twitter. And if you want to check out some of the other stuff I'm doing, my comics, I say comics, they're not comics in a comic book sense, they're cartoons, really like web cartoons, at cantorwont.com, KANTORWONT.com. So keep making cool stuff, and I'll see you next time.